I am not as the same cycle as a man is. Like that day by day discipline that could happen is not the same for me. And I think that was one of the biggest breakthroughs I had as well in my sessions with you, is discovering that as a woman I need to respect my cycle. I have to cherish it. I have to cater for it rather than be like, oh, I'm gonna power through no matter what. And and that was also a big breakthrough for me, understanding that.
Like, Reem, you are one of the most driven people I've ever met. Okay. And when I first met you, there was a lot going on with your health. And so, what I would like you to do first and foremost is go back to that moment where you're
Okay.
struggling with things and all your struggles with your menstrual cycle as well. Like, tell us how that was before for you. Like, what was your life before you even did anything, your relationship with your cycle, all of the things.
Ay, ay, ay. You're putting your finger on the wound right now. It's a good start. Okay. So I'll start off with a little bit about how things used to be for me. Things I would say were normal in my perspective. So, for example, I used to have really harsh menstrual cramps, like those who you cripple you out, that puts you, into bed for a day or so. And for me, that was okay. That was like normal. I put a heat pad, I take painkillers or over the counter painkillers, and I'm like, oh, it's okay. Everyone has them. It's part of the deal. And I think I kind of normalized it in my head as well. But the thing that I also normalized was my acne, and you know a lot about how I dealt with my acne a lot, and especially around my cycle. So the amount of acceptance that I had to the fact that acne was normal was not okay. But back then for me, I was like, oh, it's my skin type. It's just the way it is around my cycle or whatever. So those were like things that I used to consider. And I went to a lot of doctors, to be honest. Like I went to a lot of dermatologists, gynecologists, like take the pill and the pill is going to help you and regulate your cycle, regulate your hormones, or take, really extra strong medication that could help with acne. But none of that worked. And that's why I think I kind of was in a state of it is what it is, you know? Until, can I jump to the until, or can I just,
Go ahead.
until I started to meet other women, such as yourself, or just women who were like, it's not normal, you know that, right? And I was like, what do you mean? And I started to get to know that the symptoms that I was having, including the migraines that I used to suffer from, which was a big thing, the fatigue, the acne, the bloating, the menstrual cramps, like most of the things that I used to think was like part of it is what it is, and I started noticing other women are not having them. That was like a red flag for me, to start to get curious more of, oh, really, you are not suffering from the same thing that I am, or what I'm suffering from is not normal. And I think that was the switch that made me start to get more curious, and it was a process, it was like a journey I had to go through. So
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of how it started
Yeah, I remember
for
that
me.
you, at some point when we were talking, just going back to the doctor conversation, like you were given antibiotics for your acne, and then they wanted
Yes.
to put you on the pill for the big ovarian cyst that you had. And I remember at that point, I was like, I'm gonna have to be bold and tell her something, which was like,
Yes.
please trust me for a second. Like, this is not going to help you. And you're like kind of frustrated because you wanted to go away, but like you did take that leap of faith of like, okay, let's see if this works. I have nothing to lose. But before we go to that point, tell me a little bit more about like how did your acne make you feel?
Mm. So there was a phase where PCOS, like having polycystic ovaries, was kind of again, it became something that I had to live with, or I had to understand that, oh, okay, I have PCOS, and part of acne was part of it. But I couldn't really accept the way that I looked, so I covered a lot. So I used very toxic makeup. I wasn't aware about how toxic my makeup was back then. Like the makeup choices that I was making it worse as well. I would cover and hide a lot. just try not to show my real face or how my face would look like without the makeup, because I was feeling as if it portrayed something about me when people saw me with my acne. It kind of had something to do with my identity. That, oh, like, she looks like she has a lot of acne, so that means that one, two, three, that part of my identity. So I think it made me very low self-esteem, low self-confidence about how I look, my appearances, but also it hit me on a mental health side, because then I identified myself with the fact that, oh, I'm just gonna have to live with this. It's part of who I am. I wonder when people look at me, are they noticing my acne? Are they seeing it? Are they also thinking about it? It was a lot of like self critic that went on and on about it. So, and honestly, sometimes it just plain hurts. Like, I had this cystic acne, the ones that would come in were large, and it would just hurt. Like, I couldn't sleep on a pillow on my side. She's like, people don't even think about that, but that's part of it too. Like, some of them were painful. They would hurt not just to look at, but the feeling of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that really hit me, I would say, on a confidence level, on a personal level, on an emotional level, even in my relationships. Like, I would think, are my friends or my family, is my partner disgusted looking at it? And that really reflected back badly on me too.
Yeah, that's deep. But that's what the majority of people go through. And I think that anyone who will be listening to this will relate hardcore to what you just said. Like, I know I do. I
Mm,
did I went through exactly the same thing, and getting rid of that was just completely transformational. But all of these symptoms that you normalized and you were dealing with day to day, how were they impacting like other areas of your life, such as career? Because you're like, when I met you, you were like such career driven. You still are
yeah.
now, a little bit more balanced with the feminine, but we're like deep into like you
Yes.
big moves to your career. Like, how did that impact your life like that?
It crippled me in a lot of places, and I refused to accept it back then. Like, I was in denial. I was like, no, no, it's okay, it's not happening. I shove it down, but it was crippling in a lot of places. It stopped me from achieving to that highest level that I was going for, but it also stopped me from achieving the better version of myself too.
Mm.
And I think that denial phase that I was in was really a big barrier. Career wise, I could tell you that a lot of times I wouldn't really go all in. Like, I wouldn't push myself to be like, I'm going to set those goals and I'm going to try to achieve them as much as I would like, because a lot of times I'd be crippled by menstrual pain, or I would my hormones were like all over the place, so I would get really moody, or I would have a lot of times brain fog when I wake up in the morning and be like, today I wanted to achieve all of this, but I couldn't because of those symptoms. And that was a vicious cycle, I would say, I was stuck in,
Yeah.
because you put some goals to yourself and then you tell yourself, I'm going to do it, but then your symptoms come up and you can't, and then you self criticize yourself, like, oh, I didn't do it, I didn't achieve it, I'm so bad, and you talk bad about yourself and you have negative self talk, and you go on and on in negative cycle. And career wise, I was stuck in that loop because I really wanted to achieve a lot. I felt like a lot of my, especially the migraines, the migraines were one of the worst enemies for me in my career, because once you're hit with a strong migraine, that's it. You're done. Can't do anything. You just have to turn off the lights. You have to turn off your screens. You have to be very aggressive and moody, and just don't want to talk with anyone. And that really impacted a lot of the things that I wanted to achieve. Yeah. It was a bad time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, you were telling me that you had them like almost every other day at some point. There were some weeks that was just like nonstop.
Correct.
And
Can't remember the last time I had a migraine now. I
yay.
can't. I can't. No, like that kind of migraine attack that I used to get that crippled me into, just staying in bed, turning off all the lights, because I had the visual lights as well really hurt. Can't remember the last time it happened as well, and that really had a big impact.
For sure. But I think I need to touch on this because what you said is so profound. Like, the vicious cycle of, number one, having normalized pain. Number two, you have big goals, but then you can't achieve them. Number three, you start with the negative self-talk. And all of this because we were taught to normalize things that were never normal, plus we're never taught anything about our body. So like that's a huge gap that we need to start filling in. So
Exactly.
was there anything
I,
that
I wanted to say I didn't know any better.
mhm,
Like I was in that cycle, but I didn't know I was in it.
yeah,
I wasn't aware that this is where it was going. And I think I really needed to have that someone that pull their hand in and tell me, hey, you're drowning. I was drowning without even knowing I was underwater, which is crazy. Sometimes you're like so
no.
stuck in it that
Mhm.
you don't see it anymore. And being suffocated and underwater became part of who you are. And that was for me like the main change point was the moment that I started to understand that I am actually in a vicious cycle. I am drowning and I need that helping hand to pull me out of it.
What was that helping hand?
You? To be honest, I think um, someone who really cared. Like I think, and this is when I started having my conversations with you in the beginning. It wasn't only about the knowledge that you shared with me or the awareness that you shared, but I think also the fact that you cared about me. Someone that actually showed me that you cared enough to help me get out of that cycle. The first few times that we met and we spoke and we had our discussions, I think the thing that helped me push myself even more was the fact that I found someone that genuinely cared about the changes in my life, and I think that was the main helping hand that helped me out.
Thank you. No, but it's true. Like my entire life, and so did yours. And I literally watched you go through this.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, the medical system is there to help you in cases of emergency, but is not equipped or prepared when you're
yeah,
suffering from something chronic. And often you just feel not seen, you feel gaslighted, you feel like they're not taking you seriously. And so your pain, you go home still with it, thinking that you're crazy and like this is not really happening to you. So
exactly.
it's true that you need to find someone that really cares about you to really help you
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So I'm curious as well, at that time, were you trying things to try to help your situation or
More the things that I tried were more on a medical perspective, what was prescribed. So I thought that okay, I would go to this doctor, they would prescribe something for me, and that should be okay. That should work. And mostly the things that I've tried were all based on trying to shove down the symptoms or hide them rather than to deal with that cycle from its roots, from its essence, and change a whole lifestyle around it. So it was just hiding symptoms more than getting them out of the roots. That's what I tried before. And I would, if I take a painkiller, oh, it's going to help me temporarily, but did it really resolve it? Not really. So that was basically what I used to try before. And then I discovered that it was only a temporary relief from my symptoms.
and so then you met me. We talked actually quite a few times before we even started working together. But what got you to be like, okay, I'm going to work with this girl. I'm going to go forward with this. What was the moment, or was there anything behind the yes?
You were a good role model for me. So I'll go into details a bit more about that. Whenever you work with a coach or whenever you work with someone that you want to have their helping hand to get you out of it, a lot of them are just talk. So they just tell you what you need to do, they tell you what is the best thing to do and the tools, and they give you the information, or there's a lot of talking behind it. But what pulled me to work more with you was the fact that you walk the walk, and I could see that you live that lifestyle yourself because you also did the transformation for your own life, for your own health as well. So I was like, you know what? If she was able to do that, if she was able to go through that transition herself, if she is being a good role model of the lifestyle that she was living, and I saw your results physically, I was like, you know what? No, I think that could also be me. So really, what pushed me to work with you more was the fact that I was able to see myself in you. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I was able to see that that could really be me too. It's not far fetched. It's not some talk, or some big words that are thrown out. It's actual tangible changes that are really there for me to aspire by. So that really pushed for me to be more committed because in our calls as well, you would notice like I was so motivated and committed because it wasn't only about, oh yeah, I'm just going to do this and go through the program, but it was more about, I see where I'm going to be headed. I can see where I'm going to be at if I do follow and if I am committed.
But you also have this side of, I know this because I know your story. You have this side that is like, no matter what, I know I can do it. Like I'm going
True,
to anyone who doesn't believe it, I'll show them I can.
true.
So you do have this side that's very strong. And I think that was also very important in your role because indeed you were
Correct,
always like you went for it. Like you didn't wait, you did everything, and your results were very fast for that reason. Right?
correct,
So actually,
correct.
let's talk about that for a second. When we started working together, you started learning and modifying, like what were the breakthroughs for you? What were
Mm.
the changes, like the things that surprised you throughout your journey?
Okay. I'll go through it like step by step based on what I remember as well. Mostly, I remember the first thing that was the major aha for me, or the major moment that I discovered, was that what I thought was a healthy diet was not really a healthy diet. I think that was the first breakthrough, was that what I used to think was, oh yeah, I'm having a healthy diet, it's all good for me. It's not really that good for me. And I started to understand that the first thing is I need to feed my body the right nutrients that my body actually needed. And I love the fact that you put me into a challenge rather than you would tell me this is what you have to do. So one of the main things that helped me reach my breakthroughs throughout, understanding the first thing I would say, nutrition. Nutrition had a big impact in the changes of my symptoms and the changes of what I was going through, was the fact that I started to understand how nutrition plays a big role. And throughout the journey, I think what really helped me was that you would provide me with the knowledge, you'd provide me with the tools, you would support me and you would coach me through it, but you also allowed for me to make my choices. So that really was a big breakthrough as well, understanding that it was up to me, not my coach. It was me who was the one who opened up the fridge and made the choice of what I'm going to have to eat. But also, it was me who was physically going to the supermarket and getting, for example, what I need. Or maybe right now, do you know that my balcony now is filled of produce? It's crazy. I have basil, like organic, I'm building it out. I have mint, like whatever I can put on my balcony, I have it on my balcony right now. Although sometimes you say to yourself, I can't do it, but yes, you can. Even if in your small apartment, you can still do small things that could make a difference. So that empowerment of me making the choice rather than relying on, oh, my coach is going to decide on my behalf, she'll tell me what I need to do. No, she'll give me the information and she'll empower me to do it myself. That was the first one. Really big. Nutrition. You allowed for me to play around with it. And I really remember, like, there was a period of time where I was like, am I really gonna not eat that? Me, like
Uh,
cutting off dairy. Like, who would have imagined, cutting off dairy would have that much of an impact, or at least not completely cutting off, but understanding how important it is to decrease consumption, or understand what you're actually consuming.
yeah,
Nutrition was the first thing I would say that really was one of the biggest breakthrough I had throughout the journey. There is another one. The other one was me understanding how a lot of my symptoms, especially as a woman, because I am career driven, and my main focus was, I want to achieve all of my goals. I want to do everything. I want to be a business owner. Was the fact that I started to understand that I am not as the same cycle as a man is. Like that day by day discipline that could happen is not the same for me. And I think that was one of the biggest breakthroughs I had as well in my sessions with you, is discovering that as a woman I need to respect my cycle. I have to cherish it. I have to cater for it rather than be like, oh, I'm gonna power through no matter what. And that was also a big breakthrough for me, understanding that. From my perspective, I never thought about it before. I was
yeah.
like, oh, I'm in a man's world and I'm gonna do it, and I think that was something that I started to look into more and more together as we went in our journey.
That's amazing. I love that for you. Tell us about, I guess, the results, what people really liked, to hear about, like, what were the before and after, right? Like, tell us the before and the after now. How are you now, like, in this present moment? Because we worked a little bit ago. How is it
Mhm.
still now?
Okay, I would say from pictures, you can start to see like physical changes. You can immediately see. For example, you're seeing me right now, I'm not wearing any makeup. And that for me is like the biggest change that you can, the confidence in my own skin. And the acne was the first thing that you could instantly notice the difference about. Even now, like if I look at my skin and I can see a little bit of the scars, because that's something that my skin is now trying to rejuvenate out of. But I could look and be like, well, how far I've come. So acne was the first thing that you physically would like. All of my friends, all of my family are instantly noticing. People that I work with, oh, you look good, you look fresh, you look different about your skin. And I think acne was the first thing that really made a big change. The second thing was my migraines, the fact that I not have any crippling migraines that stop me from continuing on with the day, that really helps me be at my utmost or best version of myself without having that to put me back. That's one of the major things that I am so proud about right now. And those two, even after you're done with the program, the beautiful thing about it is that even after you're done with the program itself, the changes are still ongoing, but the secret is that they're still ongoing if I commit to the changes, if I commit to what you taught me, what you shared with me. Because as I always say, like you give me the toolbox, you teach me how to do it, you help me through it, you walk with me in the beginning, but then I'm gonna carry that toolbox and keep going in my life. And today, like even when I do small changes, I'm like, so Maria has mentioned to me about this, and let me, there's a mini Maria in my head always. There's like a mini
Hilarious.
Maria a voice in my head, like what would Maria do in that instance? And so so these are the top two that you would physically see changes. And I am proud to say that I used to have cysts on my right ovary, and some of them were really huge ones, to an extent where I was hospitalized for one of my cysts on my right ovary, which was so huge to an extent they thought it was really dangerous. And today I do my regular checkups and I do not have any cysts on any of my ovaries. It's like they can't find any cysts, no cysts are available. It's
Available.
just no cysts are available, none,
We
not
ain't got no cysts
available.
available for
We
you.
ain't got no cyst over here, nothing, no, there's no cyst to be found anywhere around my ovaries. And that from a medical perspective, a lot of the gynecologists that I used to work with before used to say, oh, it's not possible, you either have PCOS or you don't, and it's normal, your ovaries secrete them or create them. But now I'm like, I go and I do my checkups and there's nothing,
Yeah.
literally nothing. And that
I
that
remember
alone.
in that month that you had that episode, and then we did the work, and then you went back for a checkup, and it was no longer there. I remember you telling me that the doctor was like, I don't know what you're doing, but keep it up. And I'm like,
Yes, yes.
wow, this guy, like, they don't even want to know.
No, and for me that was a personal success. That was recognizing that it's it is possible to reverse anything and to change anything in your body as long as you are committed to it. So that was one of the biggest thing. And with that, with the reversing of the cysts that were on my ovaries, I was able to reverse a lot of the menstrual pain that came along. So right now, for example, I used to have like a 2-day episode of pain whenever I get my period. Right now, I think it's like 1 hour of me. Oh, I'm getting my period. I'm in my menstrual. Okay, it's happening, and that's it. Hour passes, and I keep going with my day, and it's very quite different than how it used to be before. Um, so these are, I would say, the top ones that I still have them till today. The changes that are so obvious and persistent as well.
And that is massive. That's a complete 180 in quality of life.
Yeah, yeah, I can't imagine.
No, you can't imagine going back there.
I can't imagine. You can't imagine.
You're like,
It's
I don't know if I could do it again.
no.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's the thing. Once you start seeing the result, I think you start to understand you don't want to go back to that life. You don't want to go back to that being of accepting or being okay with being in pain, or being okay with being diagnosed with something specifically. I think that was the major breakthrough around it.
Yep. And tell people, because you were a busy bee at the time, and there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I have so much to do. I'm so busy,
Yes.
like I have all of this. I'm not gonna be able to do any of that. Like, what would you say to someone that says that?
That was my biggest limiting belief. That was it. I don't have time. If you want to identify what I would say 24/7 before, I would say I don't have time. I don't have time for this. I don't have time to, but I need to focus on my work. I need to focus. I have other priorities.
Hmm.
That was total not true.
Yeah.
Because what I and that's the thing about this is when I started to notice the micro changes that you could do and still get big changes. So, for example, I know the 80/20 rule. So, you put 20% of effort and you get 80% of the changes across from this effort, which is really dedicated effort that you put in. So, from minor things such as changing small things in my food and my food choices and my nutrition, the micro changes I think helped me with this whole limiting belief of I don't have time. Well, you do have time to make one small micro change that will take only 5 minutes of your day. But 5 minutes of your day today, 365 a year, how much changes that? Massive. It's
Exactly.
amazing.
It's
And I
all about
think
the, oh, sorry.
the program itself allows for you to do those micro changes without feeling too overwhelmed,
Mhm.
without feeling like, oh my God, there's so much I need to change today and there's so much I need to do. No, no, if you do those micro changes day by day, it's such an intense change over the time. So yes, I don't have time was one of the biggest limiting beliefs, but today I would still say I don't have time because I'm still a busy bee, but I do have time to dedicate at least small time to do these micro changes.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's the best advice. Literally
That's
everyone, I really like that advice because that's the first thing I give people. I allow them to borrow the belief that the compounding effect is where it's at. Like you really don't, it's 1% better every single week, and you will see that come back to you like 10 times more than you expect. And so I
yeah,
love that
yeah,
you just said that really matches our mindset.
yeah. I told you I have a mini Maria over here.
Yeah, I remember telling you that all the time as well. I was like it really doesn't take much to get your body to start to rotate in the same direction as you, because like your whole life you're going opposite to how their body wants to go. As soon as you give it a
Mhm.
little bit of the right direction, your body takes it like super fast. It wants to heal so bad, and it has so many tools to do that. So
Yeah, 100%.
curious, like, how was it working with me? What's your feedback on that?
Oh. Oh wow, that's a whole other I can summarize it in a few words, actually, because I've worked with a lot of coaches, to be honest. I've worked with a lot of people who also help me on my own personal development or even professional development. So I've already put myself in that environment. One of the main things that I've noticed, and I mentioned that in the beginning, is that working with you made me feel very empowered. And I emphasize on the word empowered here because a lot of times when you work with someone, they make you feel as if they know better. And that feeling puts your coachee or puts the person you're working with in an inferior state of mind. The one thing that I've noticed when working with you is that you did know better, actually. You did have the knowledge and the information, but you never for a second made us feel who are working with you as if we're any place inferior with knowledge. That empowerment feeling really made a big difference for me. The fact that you genuinely cared as well made me realize that, hey, you know what, I'm not doing this to show off to anyone, or I'm not doing this to satisfy anyone's needs. It's all really because of me. I would say your listening skills are top notch, to be honest, because you just sit there and you allow for someone to open up, allow for someone to share from their past experience, non-judgmental whatsoever. Like I used to tell you what I used to do before, and you're like, in your head, I'm sure you were thinking, you could do better, but you never said it. You just like, okay, That's what you have done before. That's okay. Let's try something new. And that acceptance, that non judgmental approach allows for the people who are working with you to be like, okay, you know what? I guess I'm not that bad. I could really make that change. So the first thing was really, for me personally, is the empowerment. The second was that safe space of us opening up and being able to really share what we're going through. But the third, and I think the most important one that I've noticed, is how credible you are. And I should emphasize on that, honestly, because you do a lot of research. And I know how much research you do. You do a lot of research, you get a lot of knowledge, a lot of information. You're talking out of not just science-based information, but out of your own experience, out of research and studies that you've completed as well. So I think that really helps us to understand that this is the right path to take. This is the right program to join and to be part of, because it's so backed up but by so much knowledge. And I think those three categories really, I don't know, first thing that pops up in my mind when I think about you are those three, and many more, but that's from my own experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really try to put in all of those three things that you said. Like, I really try to make it so people feel safe, that I'm their friend in some way. I got their back. I'm here to support them, and I am equal to them. I'm just here to share my wisdom, and they just need to absorb it. That's it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, last question, and that comes from like the bottom of your heart to whoever is going to listen to this. Like, if they are on the fence to saying yes to themselves and going to their healing, either, outside of this program, inside of this program, it doesn't really matter. Like, what would you say to someone who's on the fence to like their biggest transformation, but they're scared or they have some limiting beliefs?
I don't know if it's really about what I would say to them rather than what they are saying to themselves right now. Because honestly, that was it for me. What was I saying to myself at the moment of having all of those limiting beliefs of, I can't do it. It's not the right time. I don't have the money. I don't have the resources, and so on. I used to tell myself all of those excuses, convincing myself that they were true. So what I would really like push for is really question those excuses you're having in your mind. Where are they coming from? A lot of them came from our background. A lot of them came from our environment. A lot of them are not really our genuine beliefs. So one of the main things that could really help is just start to question. That's it. That's all you can start doing is question. Why am I thinking this way? Where did my thought come from? Where did this excuse come from or limiting belief that I have come from? I think the inner work does a lot of the outer work. So a lot of these symptoms that you see me have recovered from were really me doing a lot of the inner work of challenging myself, of asking myself those questions of, is it really normal? Am I really going to go down this path? Can I change, and what can I do for change? So one of the things that I really urge everyone who is going to listen to this right now is start by questioning your own thoughts. Because if you don't question your own thoughts, no matter how good the person you're going to work with, it's never going to be enough if you don't tell yourself it is enough. So that was one of the major breakthroughs that helped me achieve my results throughout the program.
Wow, premium coaching right there. Honestly, take that, go on your journal, your notes, and really get that was a mini coaching session just right there. Love
It's
that.
true. It's genuine. It's really
Yeah.
coming from the heart, honestly.
And it's the most powerful thing, I think, underlying any behavior. Like you
Yes.
are someone who takes responsibility no matter what your circumstances. I've never really seen you from the moment that I met you in a victim state mentality. Yes, there may be like some traits of victimhood, but like you always like, I have responsibility for my symptoms in a way, meaning I can choose what to do with them rather than say
Yes.
like, oh, per me, I suffer with this X, Y, and Z,
Yes.
which I get it's hard sometimes to get out, but like it's you take responsibility for anything, and that's
Exactly.
what's going to take you to the
And
result that you want.
I genuinely believe the best way for us to grow is to grow together. The best way for us to grow is to grow together. So if someone is having a challenge of helping themselves out and getting out of the situation that they're in, the only way you can actually do it is by asking for someone to hold your hand and help you with it in the beginning. Like, I did not see anyone who came out of any challenge that they were in by doing it alone. It's not true and it's not possible. So if someone is facing any similar symptoms that I had, or even more or even less, the first thing that I would highly recommend always is to find someone that could help you come out, without just thinking that, oh yeah, I can do it all by myself. Trust me, you can't. I've tried. I've really tried, and it's not the way to go. You will not get the results by doing it alone.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, especially if you wanted to go like in a short amount of time, right? Instead of wasting 10 years of your life trying to get there.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
like I did it all myself. It took me full 5 years to actually get it. It's not something
Took
that I
me a few months.
recommend, but I learned without mistakes and I always get support now.
Yeah,
I ask for help.
yeah.
Okay, anything else that you want to say from your heart?
One of the main breakthroughs that I went through was I was going through a lot of changes myself. I was making a lot of changes of my lifestyle. I was making a lot of changes of internal and external factors, but not everyone around me was on the same path.
Mm.
And that really made me understand that it is a personal journey. I tried in the beginning to convince others with me, so I went ahead and I started telling my husband, I started telling my mother, my family, hey guys, try this out, this is good, check this out, and so on. But they were resistant. They were still in that mindset of, it's not for me. And I think one of the main breakthroughs I've had was that this is my journey to go through. This is the changes that I'll be doing for myself. And if they want to tag along, good for them. But if not, I have to respect their own journey too. So, to anyone who also is going through something similar, I would urge them not to force the changes that you're personally going through to someone else, a loved one. Even if you care about them, even if you really want them to change, they will go through that journey by themselves. Because if they don't make the choice, they will never be able to achieve the results that you're getting. So I think
100%.
that's one of the main messages I also want to send out, because that was my learning lesson, is that just take it as it is, let them be, do the changes that you need for yourself, respect your body, do the changes for your own good, and then whoever wants to follow that path, they could do that too.
I love that. It's great advice because we do tend to be like trying to get everyone to align with us and feel motivated with us. And then we feel the resistance and it could also
Yes.
impact our journeys. So I really love that. And I think that the first thing that you said on this call, which is like just be the example, like I kind of showed you what it would look
Yes.
like. The people around you will get exactly the same experience. They will witness
Exactly.
you in your greatest and are like, what are you doing? They will be interested.
Exactly, exactly. Like I could tell you, one of the main people that got inspired is my mother, my own mother. She's like, "What are you doing? I want to do that." I'm like, "Well, you
Yay.
gotta go through the journey yourself."
Okay, Reem,
Yeah.
thank you so
Yes,
much for sharing your story. I hope this inspires someone, at least.
I hope so too. I really
Yeah.
do.